The biggest issue that I deal with, wrestle with every single day as far as the State Planning Commission is concerned is implementation. I spoke to John from Maryland. He and I were discussing this last evening. We can come up with all the great plans that we want, but if we can't implement them, we've done no good. Our experience, and certainly mine, is twofold. And by that I mean two major problems, the first of which is political will, which Patty spoke to before. And the second, Patty also spoke to, and that is control, political control. And when I say that, it goes really from the municipal level on up. Everyone wants to control what happens as far as their particular jurisdiction is concerned. My experience in New Jersey, in 10 years on the commission, I've had to deal with 4 different governors in 10 years. In addition to that, we have gone from being the Office of State Planning to the Office of Smart Growth, and now the Office of Planning Advocacy. I have 7 members of my commission that are appointed by the governor and are cabinet members. So you can imagine with 4 different governors, 7 members of the commission, 28 different people I've had to deal with during the last 10 years. Unfortunately, what you experience is that every governor that comes in has their own agenda, period. I don't care how you want to cut it, they do. And what they do is they appoint the cabinet members that they think are going to push their agenda. They don't study the state plan and its long-term impact on our state. What they do is they come in and they want to make a big impact in a short period of time for political purposes. I don't know how else to say it. That's really what happens. So what we deal with during this, in this whole process is we on the commission understand that planning takes time. It just does. And it's very difficult to come up with, devise a state plan, and then try to implement as much of it as you can and convince municipalities and counties of the value of a state plan in a short period of time. And unfortunately, what we have found is that oftentimes the people who are heading up your state government just don't understand that. Marty hit on this before, and it's a political reality in our state with 21 counties, 566 municipalities and 7,000 square miles. The other thing I'd like to touch on is we have something called the Municipal Land Use Law, which gives tremendous power to municipalities as far as their zoning is concerned, so that they can devise a plan for their particular town that has no reference or anything to do with what's going on in the next town. So it's all about home rule. And there is no thought given oftentimes to any form of regional planning, let alone statewide planning. So as far as we are concerned at the SPC, we think that we should have the ability to dictate to municipalities not what their plan should be, but to examine their plans to ensure that they are consistent with the state plan. Because a municipality can devise whatever they want as their plan for their particular municipality, and it need not have any relevance or significance or contact with what's going on at the state plan. So we have advocated on several different occasions. In fact, I've gone to the governor's office on 3 different occasions, 3 different governors, and said, create a whole separate department for us. We have been under the 3 different offices. We started out in the Treasury Department, then we went to the Department of Community Affairs, and today we're in the Secretary of State's office. What I don't understand is planning, to me, certainly is as significant as anything else and should have its own department, number one. Number two, I do believe very strongly that at the state plan level, that again, we don't want to have the ability to dictate to municipalities what you want your municipality to look like, but if you come up with a bad plan, we should be able to examine it and then send you back to the drawing boards and say, you know something, this is inconsistent with what's in the best interest of our state in our state adopted plan. Therefore, you need to go back to the drawing board and come up with another plan. We also think that, Marty, he actually underestimates his importance to you. He was a very integral part of the Whitman administration, and Governor Whitman was the first governor to advocate that examination and consistency with the state plan should be deeply involved with state permitting and state funding. And that was really important. And I can tell you, back then, I was actually the mayor of my municipality. I was a Democrat, she was a Republican. I was a very strong Democrat, she was a very strong Republican. During her administration, because we, our municipality, believed in the state plan, we did what Marty referred to earlier, we became designated as a regional center. We went to the governor's office and asked for funding, and we received over $11 million in 7 years for fixing up the infrastructure of our town, dealing with cultural aspects of our town, despite the fact that we were of different political parties, but because we believed in consistency with the state plan. So we had a governor who back then believed in the value of the state plan and said in the permitting process and in the funding process, we need to look at what this municipality is doing and determine whether or not they are consistent with the state plan. So one big problem we have as far as implementation is concerned is that the state has never allocated funding for us, meaning the state, to reward municipalities in general for compliance with the state plan. The example I just gave you about our experience in Red Bank, it was different. Not everybody had that experience, so it was very difficult to get municipalities and even counties to buy into the planning process, and Marty could speak to this better than anyone, because there was no carrot at the end of the stick. If you don't give them money, they're not going to buy in, is essentially what I'm saying. And in this day and age, particularly in the States, what's happened is, as a result of the federal pullback that Patty was referring to earlier, okay, and also what's gone on at the state funding level, municipalities their funding has dried up, so they don't want to spend a lot of money on planning. What that's done is it's placed a tremendous demand on our office and our staff, because now we're supposed to go out and tell them what good planning is, because they don't want to go out and spend the money to do it. So I only have 1 minute left, and I just want to summarize very quickly by saying this. Much of what we see going on in Europe, we see in our state, and I want to address this very briefly. You have limited development opportunities. You have limited lands in which to develop in much of Europe. At least that's what I've observed. We have that in our state also. So there's never been a time, I believe, that has been more important to have smart planning address our futures and how we want them to look. So on that note, I want to thank Marty again for allowing me to be the discussant today, and I'll be happy here to answer any questions or concerns.
Go ahead.